Okay, I call the meeting to order, and this young man up at the podium, you have the floor.
Dr. Sarabia, Chair of the Board, and board members, good afternoon. We have a lot of things to cover, so I'll start on it right away. I'll do that in a second. I'll begin by closing down the line. Okay, so I'm going to start with Mission Del Paso. Mission Del Paso, it's making great progress, as you can tell in these pictures. Most of the site is like 35% complete. The plumbing, electrical, and structural work are on their way. They should start with steel here very soon. Architectural work hasn't started yet, but the masons should be starting here by the end of this month. So hopefully they'll cover. As far as the schedule is concerned, they're currently still on schedule, as per the last amendment, and the budget remains at the 12,652,796 for the construction. Now, last meeting, I know Mr. Uxer, unfortunately, is not here. And Dr. Grant had a couple of questions regarding the project, so I'm going to pretend Mr. X is here just very quickly.
He was trying to reach me by phone. I tried calling back, he didn't answer. So I don't know if he's running late.
Well, hopefully, does he get copies of these? Let go of these handouts? Okay, you'll be able
We
to
can
see
save a
them.
copy
You'll be
very
able to see
quickly.
the handouts, yeah. So basically, we have what the question Mr. X had was, where were the ponds located? And if you recall last week, I really didn't have anything appropriate to show. So here in blue is the pond areas. And Dr. Graham had a question about the landscaping, so you can tell it's indeed very well landscaped. And this is not in your handouts, by the way. I had it at the last minute, but I thought it would be helpful to show you what happens where the water is going to come here. This is the rolling planning guide. And as you can tell, there's some building rock mix here in this area. Also, it's because the swale is the same thing. So we can tell, Dr. Grams, it's very much like what you have the campus transformation plan as at UTEP, and it's basically all area design. So yeah, I thought I would just.
And there's not little bitty trees, right? These are big
Well,
trees.
actually, that's an excellent point, because you know that project at UTEP, we actually had two renderings. We had one, what it looked like right after, and it looked like 5 years down the road. And the reason is these, usually when you plant the trees, they're fairly small, so there's a little bit of a disappointment when you first see them, but they'll grow and they'll be beautiful. But right off the bat, that's why we actually had both renderings, so the individuals, the board of the regions and the president get a good idea that right off the bat, obviously, he's not going to have these luscious trees.
Right, but my point is, because I see what happens at the schools, you know, that we have these beautiful designs with a big tree, and then when they finish the school, there's a little bitty tree, you know, there, the kids can't even get under, so that was my point, that if the drawing shows a big tree, you can buy a big tree.
Right. They will, well, it's a balancing act, because you don't want to buy a full-grown tree just because of the costs. So you get there's a caliper requirements in the specs as far, you know, a minimum this caliper kind of thing. It won't be, I can tell you right now, it won't be like a big luscious tree,
But
but
it's not gonna be a little bitty.
there won't be little tiny twigs either. So, going on now to these sexual progress as far as buildings. If you notice here, there is a pretty big gap there, but it pretty much goes in line. Actually, let me go to the S group. S curve is even better. There's a pretty much of a change here. We've talked to the contractor about this. They're pretty much on schedule, maybe a couple weeks behind or something like that. They're doing real well. But we believe this is more of a lack of proper forecast. as you well know, most of these are S curves, and you can tell here's kind of more of a straight. So we're thinking about going back to the contracts. Let's have a real hard look at your schedule, have a real hard look at your progress. He did tell me that they're running behind on billing, and that when the steel comes in, that number will change quite a bit. But in the meantime, this does look like a pretty big gap. And now Northwest, this one's progressing nicely as well. These panels here you see are precast panels, and when they finish, and this is what they're all working on, right? And they'll just tilt them up. And so right now, I was a little bit apprehensive on this because of the schedule. As you can tell, there's a little over 6 months to go. And looking at the plans, you go, well, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on. But with these panels, once these come up, and I spoke to the program manager for this project, and he has a lot of experience with the tilt-up panels, and he told me that he feels once those panels come up, it'll go pretty quickly. I don't have a whole lot of experience with tilt-up panels, so I kind of relied on his opinion on that, and he told me once these panels go up, they'll go very fast.
That's actually something that's being used quite a bit.
It
in
is.
our area as well.
I'm sorry?
In the Socorro area?
Yes,
and
yes,
schools that they're
there's
building.
a big push now for, and it's economical and it's fast. And we'll see just a little while too on Friday, we have some tilt-up panels as well, not as much as this one. This one's got-
Where will the air conditioning go on that?
They'll go on top on the roof.
That's what I'm worried about, because they put air conditioners in the building that I'm in. Now they gotta rip the whole air conditioning system and put them on the ground, because of the design was, is the roof gonna be able to handle the air conditioning?
Oh,
units?
certainly, yes, and it's, we have mechanical engineers.
And they're not in between, these units are in between.
No, they are.
They're actually on the roof.
They are on the roof, and they're rooftop units, and they're very economical. And the advantage of that, if one goes bad, you can just replace one. You don't have to replace the whole, they don't last as long as like their air handling units, but they are certainly easy to replace and very economical.
It's what we have here.
Right.
So actually, one thing I failed to mention before is, as you can tell, we still, safety-wise, we're still doing very well. As far as the estimates, there's a big gap in this one as well. We firmly believe a lot of this is due to the contractors being behind, but it's something. This is a pretty handy tool in terms of just compare this to what you actually see in the field, and this can be used as a validation, at least as a warning. And in this case, it looks like it's just a matter of the buildings being a little bit behind, but hopefully they'll be able to catch up. As you can tell, there's a pretty big bend right here. That's curved, the same thing, you got to kick off here, but hopefully it will start catching up over once that clear. Rio Grande, this building, Arrow is making a great effort trying to catch up. As I've told you before, they're like 45 days behind. And they're really making a push to catch up. They already started all the flat work being the slabs where people walk, basically concrete slabs. You can tell this is a pretty good picture to see how much work they've done. And this was done about 2 weeks ago, so some award has already taken place since then. 27,075 men almost, so just a spring. And after these floor decks have started, as we go up, Arrow is going to give us a recovery schedule, hopefully, to make up some of the time lost, because everybody's well aware that that fall semester is very critical. So right now, this is where we are contractually. We're going to move in late July. This is right now with the 45 days where we see we're going right now. And as you can tell, he bumps up right against the fall start. So we're kind of hoping that we won't have a whole lot of rain here in the next few months.
That's monsoon season, right? Around July.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It'll be all hopefully.
We'll hopefully, yeah. We're really hoping that they'll be able to at least, which I think they will be able to at least get all of this where there will be mud.
Do we have a plan B if that doesn't work out?
So, we're looking at that's the fall of 2020. You know, our project manager knows, just based on the board's direction, that November 2020 is dropped dead. So as long as we could potentially move in during the fall, even if it's the second mini-mester of the fall of 2020, we should be fine. And again, some of this was we'll discuss later in the agenda, much of this was out of their control. We changed some of it, and that's our purview as a board. But there were some other items, El Paso Electric among others, that delayed this project significantly. But I know that you're also looking at those days in between and making up some, so. We'll hope for the best, and we'll plan for
Whatever.
other situations.
So Rio Grande actually is tracking very nicely, even with the delay, he's tracking fairly close, same thing with Esther. Now, this is something that we felt to bring back to you. That has to do with the wayfinding committee. They wanted a little more identity, maybe a few loads here and there. In the meantime, we got with the city. The city has very strict restrictions in terms of signage. And that restriction is basically limited to 80 square feet per facade. So what we did is, this one you can hardly tell. It was actually 100 square feet. Now it shows 80 square feet. So as you can tell, there's not much difference from what it was before. However, one thing that came up, which we all thought it was valid, is this here says Rio Grande. And the question came up, well, Rio Grande is not there, that's Oregon. Rio Grande is perpendicular to that. So it might be something that will cause people to get confused. So what the suggestion was, and here's what we proposed. This is what we have right now that you're seeing. This is what we propose, which is basically change it to EPCC and put like a metal, not necessarily a color one, but a metal logo that could be backlit, and so have a little bit more identification for the building. This is what it looked like at night. So you would have the lit up building there, the letters, and then here will be EPCC, and you can see the lit up logo back there.
Can you light up the EPCC?
The EPCC will have probably some, honestly, I don't know for sure. I know that we'll have lights to it, but I don't know if they have like focus lights on it. There's lights all around here. I'll find out.
But it's also facing the street, right? So on
Yes,
the other
ma'am.
side of it, there'll be other buildings, so I'm not sure like what you would really want to illuminate if you do put the lights
Right.
there. But, you know.
Well, I'll find out what they have, just so I won't be misleading you. Let me find out.
Dr. Mitchell, how do you feel about that not being called the Rio Grande? Just EPCC?
Well, it is the Rio Grande campus, but it's on Oregon Street. And so that could be confusing for people driving in and out who aren't there. If we just had Rio Grande, if we said Rio Grande campus, that would be one thing. But if it just says Rio Grande, people may think it's Rio Grande Street, which is on the other side.
So you're comfortable with just EPCC?
Yes, we had originally talked about EPCC up at the top, but I think having the EPCC instead of Rio Grande above the garage door driveway is fine.
You keep in mind that we are limited by the 80 square feet.
Right.
So that's why this logo actually became a little smaller and the letters a little bigger because they're too small. So, but all of this is going to be firmed up by the wayfinding committee. But I wanted to run it by you, see if you had any objections before I did that, and hopefully you're okay with it. See at least one person shaking hands.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be
See
done.
how nice that looks up at the top?
Oh, it looks fantastic, yeah, and I think that teal look, it's gonna be a teal tint to the lighting too.
Is PSC, I'm sorry, that's Parkhill Smith
Purpose,
Brothers?
yes, ma'am,
They're
the architects, yeah,
Okay.
and they actually did these renderings for me, so I could show them today. HB Construction is the contractor for Valle Verde, and as you can tell, a lot of progress is being made. As a matter of fact, just last week, they had the last meeting going down. you need to sign it. And so we're pretty much done with this field. And there's the tilt-up panel right there. That's what's gonna happen in Northwest too. This project is right now, given they did get that 20-day extension, and given that extension I told you about, they're right on track. The structure, like I said, the structural still is all complete, and they actually started the above ceiling work for the ESC in the first floor, so it's moving very well. Big front factor, concrete front factor, 691 man hours, and no safety incidents. As far as the schedule, here's right now what it's planning, substantial completion of late October 21st. And then, so with the move-in 30 days, makes that November 21st. So we still got a little bit of wiggle room there to start in the spring. And so far, it's looking good. It's really a beautiful building. As far as the progress, they're tracking very close. It's nicely, the curve is nicely accompanying the projections. So as you can tell, it's up a little bit here, but that's not much concern. We're talking basically like 3% delta, so it's not too bad. Via Vernon BTC, this building's looking fantastic. Actually, if we have time, I'll show you a video that came out that shows some interior shots also of the building. And you'll see how much progress they've done. There was a 30-day delay at the last number, I mean, it was like a couple weeks ago, that was caused because there's a storm drain line that apparently the drawings and even the entrance to the line showed that it's being 24 inches. Turns out when they start digging it out, it's actually 18 inches. And what that does is if we don't replace that existing line, you'll have a chance of flooding this in maybe a 100-year flood. So we definitely don't want that. So with everybody's blessing, including the deans, they all agree, let's give them the 30 days, let's do this right. And as a matter of fact, they're talking right now, here's with the extension, if we give it to them, they'll be done early June, they'll be ready for summer too. And actually, they're starting it maybe not waiting maybe until the fall, but we certainly are planning to get it done at early June, and then if they decide to wait longer, then that's perfectly okay. That's what we want to do. Safety-wise, 16,691 man hours. There's a lot of work going on in the inside interior with the painting and the outs, the ceiling tile, and also ceramic tile in the bathrooms. Just as a way to kind of orient you around, is this here again is the automotive area. And in there is the, because you'll see the video inside and out for us, so keep in mind, this area here is collision, and there's a paint booth right there. This is all the classroom and office areas, and this is the diesel areas. That's storage, I don't know if you remember, there was an alternate and we accepted it. So that's storage for the building, and this is outdoor wash for the cars and trucks. They are pretty much tracking, they'll have to make up quite a bit right here, but I still feel confident that they'll do that. Same thing here, the actual look is fairly parallel to that. Trans Mountain, this one is not ready. April 12th is substantial completion, and May 12th is final completion. So this will definitely be the first one to finish. As you can tell, it integrates very well with the rest of the campus, and we have beautiful views, and you'll see some of that in the interior of the videos that we got through the windows. So the ribbon cutting is scheduled for 5:13, I believe.
For
For
Trans Mountain, we actually have April 22nd. Does that
Okay.
need to be revised since you just said April?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make, so it's April?
It's scheduled for April 22nd, but we haven't sent out anything official
Okay.
yet, so we can adjust if we need to.
Oh, okay.
So I'll get
April
together.
22nd sounds fine, it actually sounds better.
Okay.
Because they'll, well, it's not necessarily better, but I think we'll be fine, we'll make it work. So, so this project is basically right on track. The move-in should be at early May. So there'll be a little bit of overlap there, Carrie, but I'm not worried about it. It should be fine for the living room. And $35,635. That's pretty good in terms of hours work. And basically, we're about to wrap up this project within 15 seconds. Here's the numbers tracking. It's also pretty much parallel. Looks like it's been doing all kinds of things here, but it's not going to catch up. And now going over the third project plan, this is where we see where we think we are right now. So we're looking at, there's the actual dates, notice to proceed, substantial plan, and final completion. But right now, with Vibrant TTC being pushed out 30 days, we actually going to have all the buildings are going to be turned over at separate times, not simultaneously. So Trans Mountain here will be in June for the summer one, Vibrant TTC in July for summer 2, Northwest for the fall semester in 2019, spring of 2020, Vibrant Classroom Live, Mission Del Paso, the spring meeting master in March of 2020, and finally Rio Grande for the fall of 2020. So, giving you a summary on the budget, the budget actually is quite large, it's going quite well. We're in great shape. As you can tell, the contingencies are staying well pretty much online. The overall contingency number is, of course, don't take into the bank that we're going to give you 5, but it's right now 5.5 million, so that's pretty good, considering that we already got some projects pretty far along. But overall, the projects are all on budget, and with a fairly, a little bit on Northwest, but I still think we're probably okay. We're considering how far we've gotten on with this. This is the overall done budget. It hasn't changed. This is all updated, all updated numbers as of this week.
Are you busy?
Is there a question? No.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Back that you said there was something, Paul said something on Northwest, and then paused, and then said, well, it's okay.
Well,
What are we talking about?
Well,
contingency.
it shows here.
It's the lowest of the contingency.
Yeah, it's the lowest of the contingencies, and honestly, I'm having a hard time policy there. I think it's 2%. But given that we already, it's only 6 months to go in the project, I think we're okay. I guess that's basically what I was trying to count, because it's the lowest of all.
But the reason you paused is because it's just a single-digit percentage, too.
It's less than 4%. You know, I would have liked to see that number at 3-4%. 2% to me is a little bit low, but it's not.
It's showing 4%.
It's showing
It says
4%.
Oh, see, I thought, that's why I paused, because I thought that said 2, and I don't remember being 2. Okay, we're fine. No worries. We're all good. Yeah, actually, I thought that's why I was just, because I wrote 2%, I didn't remember, so.
Got plenty of time to come back and get it.
We're fine. I need to make these numbers a little crisper or bigger. Or get glasses.
Hey, you're not wearing your glasses?
I got contacts now.
Oh, they're not working.
Still get it. So, okay, now the wayfinding update. There's been quite a bit of work done behind the scenes in terms of getting to wayfinding and exterior wayfinding for the campuses. And one thing that we found out was that even for monumental signs, because we're in residential areas, the city won't let us go over 10 feet. So what I'm about to show you, it's a little change, it has changed a little bit since we talked last because we were now made aware of it. But I want to make sure, this is the schematic design for the signs are basically complete. but I want to make sure y'all are comfortable before we go on to the next design development stage and show you what we have. I think they're excellent. I think the consultant has done a great job. And she sent me these. I'm not going to show you every slide she sent me just because it's a fairly extensive. I will show the wayfinding all those slides, but tonight I just want to show you basically what her direction is on this. These are the colors she's considering for the signs. And this is the stone for the bases, and you'll see in just a little while what we're talking about.
Time out. Why do you say it's to be confirmed? Go back one slide. Everything's.
All these, because the stone, we need to check on the availability of the stone for the design. So very likely, the wayfinding committee pretty much determined we're going to go with stone. But now, as far as which one of these, like the Coronado stone, the Bishop Lee versus Menard versus the one finding UPCC architecture, we still have to determine the availability of that stone. So it's not, the decision
not
between these
set
three, it's not here. But I'll show you which one, in the renderings, you'll see which ones they decided to go with if it is available. So,
The architect picked it, or did the?
Wayfinding
Or the
consultant.
staff at the campus?
We will work together. There's a wayfinding committee, that's the staff, basically represents the staff, and it's composed mostly of deans and Mr. Lobato and, pardon? Carrie, yeah, Carrie as well. I'm sorry, spoken to you, Carrie. And so they've already reviewed all this, they've all approved this. This is basically, I'm trying to get a confirmation from you, and then I'm gonna send the final package from the consultant to the wayfinding committee one more time. Once we get that determination, that's okay, then we'll tell them to proceed on behalf of the college. So right now, she has basically three types of signs for the entries. There's a primary, which is for the main entrance for the campuses. There's a secondary type of sign, which is basically for the secondary entrances. And then she even has a tertiary sign for just the smaller entrances. They're still entrances to the campus, but we don't need to announce it with a big name, just basically say here's an entrance. So that being said, here's the sign base, which is that stone. And this is the tertiary. So this would be for the smaller entries. This one here is the secondary, which would be for the second, basically, as important for the campus. And the main campus will be either horizontal like this or a vertical one like this for the main entry. All these will be backlit. So basically, if you think about it at night, you'll see the letters backlit. There's be very few instances and where we don't have electricity, like at the entries, that there's no electricity around and it would be very costly to get lights. We might come up with something, maybe with some solar lights or even no lights, depending on the importance of the entry. These are the highway signs. We were a little bit disappointed that we couldn't go over 10 feet, but that's the fact. And so I think they identify also the early college high school. This is one of the things that the wayfinding committee made a point of saying they want to see. And adds that hill, which we all think it looks very nice. I really think the designer did a very good job on this. And so that's what they have. And just as an example, I'm going to show you at Trans Mountain to kind of give you an idea what we're talking about. So like this here is the main monument sign that goes by the highway. That'll be here by 54 right here. And then the other ones, for example, in Trans Mountain will be just these next ones. That wouldn't be a tertiary, everything will be secondary. Honestly, I still want to talk about this one because I think a tertiary there would be in order, just because it's a very small, narrow road.
Becky.
And not a lot of people use it, so I don't want to show you one of them secret that pronounced way. The budget for this right now is 900,000, so is well within the 1.6 or 1.7 million that we have set aside for this.
If you can go back to the one more.
That
Right there. The one, the native stone. That's the one that's found in the EPCC architecture, but there's so much of that that I think one of the other two would be a nicer attraction.
You can tell here, that's exactly what they're showing here. Because that's what the committee felt pretty much the same way. And one thing the committee asked for as well was that there won't be joints. So basically they dry stack, meaning there's no joints and just stack on top of each other. And so that's what they're showing that. But again, we'll have to go back and see if these are available, because these obviously we can't dry stack. And besides, the committee basically agrees with you on that.
Yeah, every yard you see has that kind. So
Right.
it's something different.
So
So those are, how tall? 5'9"?
this one is 9'5", and this one here is 4'8", like 12 feet in, 4 feet 8 wide, 9 feet 5 inches. Basically, what we're trying to get is 100 square feet that the city will allow us to put there.
So they wouldn't be like the other one right before? That kind of height?
This one?
No, the other one. That one.
Oh, this one are the ones that are going to go by the highway, and it's 10 feet as well. But on that one, we have more square footage because it's by a main.
Oh, I see. But that wouldn't be the case in the one in Trans Mountain? That's by
The
the
Trans
freeway?
Mountain will have this one on Trans Mountain at the main entry by the highway. And then all the other ones will look like this, the Trans Mountain. So basically.
So going back on those, so you said that there's some that there's no way we can put electricity, I mean, because that can be eliminated at night and it would look.
And that's the
really
idea,
stable.
and in most cases, if you see here, I've actually gone by and, I did this actually, find out where there's power, like in this case, see the little lightning bolt there, that means there's power there. That one, we probably need power, we need to somehow get power to it be solar with a.
Solar, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's solar, probably couldn't be backlit. So that still needs to be worked out in the design development. But like this one, solar would definitely be an option to just uplit. Because the reason we want power is so we can backlit the signs. So when you drive by, you'll see the letters illuminated. On these other ones, we feel like if we just have like a spot of trouble, so we think it would probably be enough. But all that still needs to be studied. Like for the example, this one doesn't show us having power. The true would be nice because it's such a major road here to have backlit, so we might have to extend. And like I told you, the budget is pretty good shape, so we might be able to afford bringing some power down to.
Yeah, because we want it to look classy.
Absolutely, and honestly, I think the signs look really
The
classy.
signs look classy, but not if you can't see them.
Of course, they'll all be lit one way or another, with a very few exceptions. So, starting with action items now, the first one is the utility easement request from El Paso Electric Company for Rio Grande. Now, for the sake of full disclosure, they've already done this work. And I'll explain to you in just a minute why. So I'm really hoping you'll approve.
So if we say no, it's coming out of your budget.
If we don't approve it, are you going to deny any knowledge of it?
I'm glad El Paso Electric's finally ahead of us.
That's a mistake, that's Rio Grande.
Yes.
Let's see if the other one shows that. Well, I apologize, yeah, we should have Rio Grande, totally missed that. This right here is, if you remember, there's a power pole here that the latest 45 days. When they finally got around to relocate it, they put it here. It's that one right there. So in order not to spend $5,000, which we're glad about that, in a metal pole, they went with just another wood pole. What that means is they need guy wires. And guy wires are those wires that come out of the pole to give stability to the pole itself. And so in this case, one of those guy wires landed in this property, which is outside. This is the easement right here. So obviously they've gone outside the easement, so we need to fix that by getting an easement for this little area here in case they need to get it.
Whose property is this then?
That's
ours.
that's
It's
ours.
ours.
Yes, sir. Yes. So
It's ours.
this is what the easement document reads, and this is their drawing. And part of the reason I took those pictures is because I was having a hard time reading that. It's just, to me, it looks a little complicated. But that basically what I presented is what is happening. So, for you,
Hear a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Seconded it.
I do.
This is yours.
So the next one is, if you recall, at the last meeting, I told you I was gonna have to come back to you because there was another one called the Smith Group, but at the time we didn't know exactly the amount and what the logistics were. So basically, at the last meeting, you approved $438,750 for new Max Office building products, business environments. And that still stands. We were not here to ask for more money. I'm basically telling you that a part of that, today is where it says, it's $50,000 of these 438, not to exceed, will go to Smith System. And the reason is, the way the co-op is set up, the Smith System, we need to write a PO to the Smith System. So all we ask you for permission is to this amount that you already approved, to use not to exceed 50,000 for the Smith System, so we could write a PO to the Smith System.
So are we going with them instead of the,
No,
They're separate.
it's basically two separate organizations.
okay?
And actually, everything goes through these guys, but the way the co-op wrote the contract, it requires that the funds for the Smith System furniture be paid to them directly. That's
So it's part of the co-op bid?
yes, ma'am.
Process, okay.
The bid, the PO itself,
Right.
it's all one page,
Right.
but there's an exception in there that says the PO for Smith System, because it's a furniture brand, basically, needs to be written separately to them. It doesn't go through the business environment. This, please understand? So, we're here to formally ask for, the not to exceed amount of $50,000 worth of award for the Smith System.
So moved.
Which is, just to clarify, it's part of the 438.
Yes, ma'am.
Hear a motion?
I move so.
Construction.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next two.
Yeah, just, so you explained all of this in the previous, I mean, this is not new to us. You
No,
told
I
us this was
I
coming.
just yes, sir. And I told you at the last meeting that this was coming.
Yeah.
I just didn't know exactly the amount.
So now we're here.
No, exactly, yes, sir. So now we have basically two action items, and this is the first one, the Trenton campus. It's basically to ask for your approval to spend a not to exceed amount of $270,000 in a change order to Dentex Construction. And part of the reason that we're doing this is so we can go ahead and approve a change order, so they can get an order to be here by the way we can.
What caused the need to change the order?
Well, I think you're saying, why did we go to the contractor? Yeah, it was a decision that the university made, the college made last January, I believe, or last December, not last December, last January or December of the year before. That given the effort that it was gonna take to procure all this, install all this, we were better served by having the contractor handling the AV. That also helps us from the standpoint that way we're guaranteed that will be done by the time it is complete.
Yeah, let me clarify a little bit. So the AV, audiovisual equipment, can be procured multiple ways. Sometimes the college itself procures it and installs it, and or their installators install it in. And so that is always a question on a project, right? Who buys it, and we go through the contractor. So when we wrote that contract for for the contractor, that decision hadn't been made, so it didn't include that.
Oh, I see.
So basically, it's the same cost. It's the same cost. It's actually less expensive to go through Dantex because they're already mobilized and they're already set in place. And it avoids the problem of having finger pointing, right? At the end of the job, why is this? Why not cooked properly? They're gonna take care of it. So it's not really a change order. It's a change order to the contract, but it's not any addition
It's
to
not an
the
addition.
program. It's the same amount.
You explained this last time. You told us this was coming last time also.
Maybe he did, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
If you look on slide number 34, they're very optimistic. They already have it in there. They think we're gonna vote for it. So it has nothing to do with our contingency. It's already added into the money.
so Paulo, you're gonna have these change orders for every project, right?
No, and thank you, that's why I'm glad you mentioned it, because it reminded me to mention that when this decision was made, some projects were already out of bid, so we couldn't go back and change it. But like a Rio Grande and Mission, we caught it early enough that we were able to lump it in. So we won't come, we will probably, trying to think, maybe Northwest. Might not be. Actually, there's a little discrepancy there. There was on Northwest, there was about $300,000 in there for an EV, but what we've been told is that that wasn't enough. So there, I may have to come back, depending, that's still, the jury's still out on that one. Rio Grande and Mission, definitely, we caught it in time. So we shouldn't have to come to you for any of this, unless now at 11, there's a 12th hour kind of change.
Yeah, you don't have a figure on that slide for 8 Northwest.
Right, so, and really the way it happened, let me show you real quick, I'd like to show you. So just to give you an idea, if you follow this line AV, and by the way, we are tracking that separately because what we don't want it to happen is all of a sudden we throw all this money into the construction cost, so the cost per square foot will go up, and that's not fair because typically that's not the case. So we're actually tracking the per square foot dollars separately from that. That being said, you can see here EV, see Mission, there's 0. There's the Trans Mountain amount right there that's about to go in there. There's the Valle Verde one that's about to go in there. And the other ones are 0. So Rio Grande and Northwest, they're all showing 0 because we're already assuming it's up there with the construction. So hopefully that will help. So this one is for Trans Mountain. Okay, so this is what it reads. And for Trans Mountain, I actually had to go get some money out of the contingency because I believe we had, don't quote me on that, but it was like about $250. No, it's more like $230,000. We need $270. But I had a good contingency on that side from the equipment part, so I was able to not even go to the contingency, just to go to the equipment and bring the money in.
I hear a motion.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
The next one is Valle Verde EDC. This one is actually under budget. So I basically put in the budget number here, but it will be probably, we don't have the firm number, but it'll be about $15,000 less. But I put it not to exceed just in case something falls through the cracks.
I hear a motion.
Motion.
To approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Now, this is an house show.
So, Mel Herrera, HPCM, one of the partners of the company. We wanted to come and visit with you and request additional funds. So, I'm going to go through a couple of slides and I'll interrupt if you have a question or two. So the bond program has been very dynamic and complex from the beginning. When we started the program, we were looking at $62.4 million total project cost. increased 1 to 107.5, and now we're at 125.03, I believe. The program, as Paulo showed, currently has a healthy budget of $5.5 million, which is great at this time of construction when we're turning over 2 and the others are way under construction, pretty much above ground at this point. Having that 4 to 5% average contingency for construction is healthy. So all of the projects will be substantially completed right at the end of 2019, with the exception of the Rio Grande campus, which obviously has grown in scope from the beginning and has been delayed, as I will show you later. And so we're going to talk about multiple reasons for delay. Some of them are unforeseen conditions of utilities underground that were not expected, challenges with the utility companies not being prompt in the removal of infrastructure, some situations with, again, uncomfortable neighbors and whatnot. Some of it has been also part of, small part of it has been issues with the architects, and I'll speak about that. But just to give you an index of how dynamic the program has been, the architects collectively, their contracts have increased 23% over the life of the program. Yes, sir?
Just give me a range for 23%. Is that 2.3 million or $100 or what is?
He has the numbers for me. I don't.
It's in that budget sheet.
Okay.
Oh, actually. We got it.
Well, go ahead.
So you can tell.
So the architect started at
Yeah, there it is. So.
7.5.
So.
7.5 is the current architect. And if you subtract 23%, that was the original. Collect.
So that represents a 23% increase.
Well, that includes the 23%.
Yeah, that represents with the 23%. About 1.2 is about 6.
Is it this one?
Yes. So I'll get into the details, but just for you to start thinking about it, we're requesting $335,000 as a change order to complete the program. We've had multiple significant construction delays and some pre-construction delays as well. And I got the main ones with their points here. Many of you on the board that have been for most of the meetings, 2 times a month at the beginning and now once a month, will recall that we had to change the building location for Mission del Paso during the design. That was, well, because it was the right location, but it was a change from what the master plan had recommended and from what we started with. Then we had some issues with the city of Socorro and Texas, both claimed authority over the project to some degree and held us when we were in the issuance of construction drawings. The Rio Grande project has been the tougher one, even though the delays don't show it. We've had issues with Sunset Heights. We've also had lengthy historical commission approval that made the newspaper, as you recall. And then we had a significant value engineering process to be able to bring the budget back. And that saved $23,000 again. And for those that may not recall, the value engineering process is sitting with the contractor and the architect, going over ways of perhaps achieving the same results with less money or less time. That was quite consuming. The Northwest project had a ribbon of the construction due to the market conditions. If you recall, that project was way out of what we did it first. The architect at his own pocket had to redesign the project and remove certain areas to be able to be within the tolerances.
Can you remind me who the architect was?
for that project?
For Northwest?
Yes.
Jerry, G.A. J. Architecture.
On Northwest, for Ms. Sanchez, that was our decision to rebid it, just based on the price. It was, from our perspective, as well as the project managers, was way out of line. And based on their recommendation and the board's agreement, we delayed that project and then rebid it. And much to their credit, the price was much more tolerable.
Yeah, and part of the dynamics, as you all know, we're at a peak of construction in El Paso, and so something happened when we did this project that the numbers were just wrong. And we went in quite deep with the trades organizations, and we investigated, and there were several anomalies where people took a really high conservative number and all used it, and it threw the numbers out. Now, the architect had some responsibility because he did design certain things that were expensive. And so we had a contractor on our team early on that would help us identify those kinds of things, and that was helpful to CK Construction. These are the three major pre-construction delays. Every project, in a complex program like this that, basically started from a master plan that was kind of a 10,000 square feet view, it's going to have delays of multiple cases, right? So I'm not even accounting for the other three projects that had some issues, but that's normal. On the construction side, we had issues that are beyond our control. El Paso Electric, we met with them very early on. The architects met with them, and they just very slow to react. And unfortunately, they caused delays on pretty much every project. Trans Mountain, there was that loop, right, if I remember correctly, that we had to affect. And that loop was feeding the whole project, so it had to be done. On Valle Verde TPC, we had a water line installation that caused some delays. We had a change on the entrance. We went back and forth a couple times, and that is a little bit of the college desire to improve on the entrance of that project. And we had some small design modifications that are part of the architects, improving their design. The Valle Verde class lab, again, some issues with the design that had to be corrected that are causing a delay. Rio Grande, again, another one of those El Paso electric line relocations. We're just talking about that, those wires, bad wires. On Northwest, we had a quite interesting issue with Canutillo Independent School District in their parking permit. Because you are collaborating with Canutillo, it came back in the city's interpretation of the agreement. We had to go back and change that agreement to be able to get a construction permit. And then on Mission del Paso, we've had issues with grading as well from the city. No, I'm sorry, from the county. So I prepared a cost analysis to try to understand what kind of impact those delays would have on our staff. As many of you know, we have a pool of staff led by Paulo. I contribute because I love the college, but Paulo is our leader. And then we have kind of multiple assistants, and then we have the field people. And so some of the delays really affected partially on the group up front that we're doing permitting and we're doing design reviews and whatnot. Then some of the delays during construction affected people that I had on the ground and that I couldn't just relocate that easily.
Have you put this figure on slide 34 yet?
No, not yet.
It's not until the
No,
board
until we
approves it.
approve it.
Right, it's not there, no, sir. It's not done.
You put the 270 on.
Well, we would approve, so.
This one's different.
Okay, because I didn't go to business school, I don't understand. I'm looking back at this. The total project bond funding is 125,036. Okay, now, so there's 335,000. Where is that? You're not talking about increasing the total 125. That,
No, sir.
okay, you're just saying y'all want some more of the contingency money.
That's correct. part of us waiting to see this and to talk, I mean, we've been partners with the college for many years now with this program. Because I wanted to be very respectful of not going to Ms. Shaughnessy and say, you know, we need more money. I mean, that would be the last thing that I want to do. So we were a little cautious and kind of waiting to see what would happen. Now that we know that we can manage to the end, we think that
The contingency there is for anticipate, I mean, it's already funded, it's in there for costs. I mean, you know, that's what the contingency was designed for.
yeah.
We think so too, Mr. Uxer. The team has Ms. Shaughnessy, Mr. Flores, Mr. Gallardo, Mr. Lobato in particular, among the rest of the team. I've reviewed it as well. Mr. Herrera and Mr. Perez and their team have been very good to the college. We had approximately $5.5 million in contingency. This was whittled down significantly. Kudos to our project manager and the staff as well. It's less than half where we initially began. We feel comfortable as a staff to recommend this to the board for approval. It does come out of contingency, which we'll still have a little over $5 million left in contingency.
Yeah, this is less than 0.3%, 2.27%, 0.27% of the total budget in the first place.
And it is, the vast majority of this was outside of the project manager's control. In particular, the 6 months, this went from 18 to 24 months. So we certainly appreciate their time and effort. Again, we think that we've verified everything with the staff, and we feel comfortable
I
with the
don't know, you
recommendation.
want to go back over to line item 9 again? I'm not sure that we want to talk about it. Oh, that's Paulo, okay. I guess. Well, I mean, look, you look at line 12, you know, I mean, that guy is really generous.
Well, you know, part of what, you know, this is a great program for us in multiple ways. I mean, we not always do we have a chance to do something significant for an institution like yours, and so Tom, the senior partner, told me to really involve in this project and not charge, and that's kind of our commitment to the project. I'll show you number 11, for instance, just to tell you what we've done. So there were some issues with IT that we feel that were our responsibility. We should have caught earlier on. And so I have put an engineer to basically focus on those ITs and resolve them before they become a bigger issue. And so that time I'm not charging you. Because Rick and Ruben know the person, and you know.
Just as a comment, when we first went into this, we knew that this was a project sort of defined by, and we held up our hands because we didn't really know. Okay, so now we're down to where we can identify it and actually run the numbers. Should have just done it anyway. But I don't know why.
Okay, so I don't think you'll be coming in under budget and ahead of schedule from the looks of this, but I make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, all right, well, I'm gonna let's go to the next slide. I just wanted to show you one thing. This is kind of a quick way of looking at our contract. So when we started at 62.4 for negotiation, we're at 5.5 or so of the total project cost. As the program increased, we were able to lower our percentage to 4.5. And even with the change order, this already includes the change order. It's still at that same percentage. So it's a sanity check.
That helps.
So, yeah, so I'm not charging more percentage-wise.
You got your money, you better stop.
Thank you.
First rule of negotiation, if you've won, stop talking.
Take the money and run.
No, I think you've been very honest with,
And you guys have done a great job.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
what
really
I'm
good.
saying. You still, I'll hold you to that. No, you probably are, just looking very closely at the amount.
Just don't let it disappear somewhere between now and
Oh, I watch it like a hawk, trust me.
we'll go back to line 9.
Okay, moving on for the next item.
Anyhow.
No, they already did. They already
We
voted.
already did it.
We voted. It's
You
a,
can
When
go to
you've
the video.
won.
Yeah, you can go to the video.
Okay,
Stop
okay.
talking.
Got it. So I have a 10-minute video.
We have time.
Okay. You made it sound.
Was this shot with your drone? Is this?
Portions of it, yes, the aerials happen, and then he did some inside with the camera.
Now, you don't fly that drone that fast, do you?
I was trying to keep it from being boring. Because the drone does go, and I want to get the impression how fast they're moving, you know? I sped it up to 2.5 speed. See how fast the workers are?
There's the interior wall.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. So by the way, these videos were about 2 weeks old. Yeah, it is. I'll show it next. Actually, that's a good idea. I'll show it. Those rulers are translucent, so they bring all this light into those bays, which is fantastic. There's a lot of daylight. Yeah, it did. It really did. And this one looks good. I did a double take on this one, sorry. This is just, I forgot to edit that out. See, there's the translucent panels. This here is the automotive area.
Now, you have lifts inside here, Tony?
Yes, sir. And now we're gonna go into the collision. That's where the pay booth is gonna be over there in that corner. This is the hallway, and this is where the offices are, and there's a classroom there. And again, this is back on the floor. You can see where the recesses on the floor for the machines. This is the main lobby. This is the restrooms. Nice startled that guy. He was like, startled a little. As you can tell, the finishes are really nice.
Just out of curiosity, do you have to have emergency showers in this facility?
Not in this facility, not that I'm aware of. No, on Valle Verde, yes. The
The
Valle
STEM,
Labs.
yeah, the STEM
Yeah.
building.
This is the diesel area here.
You do have ladies' bathrooms too, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Again, this is still diesel. So you can tell what's being done. This is where the tools are going to be. This room here. It's a big room for tools. There's a lot of tools. It's nearly $1 million of equipment in this building.
How much?
Almost $1 million. This is a classroom. This is for me. The classroom actually has glass between the areas that we work on in the classroom. That's the storage building before that was that alternate that we accepted to allow them to have storage. Actually, that's that road I was telling you about. These are real narrow road, and these on one, he carries a lot of traffic. Because it's so narrow, there's no shoulder.
That's the one that goes to the city.
Yeah, it's it. That's iStorage stacks right there. Rick's favorite part. You can tell inside, it's a nice view. This is the area behind you is where the offices are going to be. This area up here is going to be a great area where the tower is. And these are the classrooms now we're going to be looking into. As you can tell, the finished floor. We're wrapping up, but it's still wet. There's green circles. There's more classrooms. And we're going to go into the restrooms. That's not. Yeah, that's not. This is the connecting area between the existing building and the new building. And this is basically when you come in from the adjacent building, this is what you'll see, is the two corridors, this one goes to the exterior, and the bench here for the students. And this is the restrooms. Very nice finish. Lighting's mechanical room. It's a pretty big room. Jose Garcia. And this is on the roof. Exterior picture. That's it. And the other entrance will be outside. This is the shameless plug. That's it. Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn?
Do you want to go into executive session here, or you want to wait until?
That's up to you. You want to do executive session now before the meeting, or do you want to wait until after we start the meeting?
Do we have enough time
10 minutes.
to do it now?
20 minutes?
Is that enough?
It depends on the board.
What?
I can get a lot done in 20 minutes.
Well, let's go into executive session.
Can we start it and
But let's
then-
take a few minutes for everybody to go to the ladies' room. Let's be back at,
You want to head over there then? It's up to
I mean,
the
I don't know
board.
if they can't, I don't know, but I'm just saying food is.
Hey, how are you?
If they went over there, they'd have to call this, start it, and go in. But that's the board decision, whatever you want.
well, you to the board. You guys just want to go in there?
Was he going to cover the budget?
Do I need to read that we're going into executive session right now?
If that's what the board wants to do.
He wants a break. He wants a break.
Let's do a break for 5 minutes and come back and then we'll discuss it. Well, we are, but first you can have a break. A little break. Because I need a break. Let's meet back here at 5:15. I give you 3 minutes.
Well, you worked out.
I did not tell him that I told him that I still have the decision but I was I don't know what I needed to do. But when that guy
How are you?
it's been going well.
No, here.
Yes, I did. So it's been great. No. One of them was here, the other one had not shown, so. Yeah, she was here, they're including the ballot numbers, I got one on ballot. Are you gonna give me?
Well, yes, well, I will give you the
Very nice to meet you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some questions earlier to Dr. Zapat, I don't know one of the new ones that I had was whether,
I'll check. If it isn't the same,
any
I'll
of the
let you know.
changes that are due to the architect's redesign, whether those get charged back to the architect and
That's been discussed.
To say hi.
That's been discussed.
How were you today?
Oh,
Right.
Yes,
So there's,
I got,
there's
I don't know why I got
I
it,
guess,
but
standard.
We average out.
I come early and they
Don't, do not try to anticipate the doctors and the medical.
AIA has established those.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're evaluating.
You know, I have
We're
my
tracking
orthopedic
the
surgeon, if
So should
you
the college
be
decide
ready to wait, and he needs,
chart and,
you have to wait.
errors and
You got,
omissions.
you got
That's
10
okay.
minutes, I think you're.
Board's decision.
So we can
One of the
probably wait.
challenges is
Yeah.
That's fine.
early-
It's
these
probably
are
if we do that.
I think we'll be pushing.
the
Yeah,
architects, the
I'd say we wait and
Then
just
you
have
start
to,
losing
they
the
adjourn.
atmosphere and-
So are we gonna go ahead and say we adjourn then at 5:12?
Sounds good to me.
5:15.
5:15?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.